What is up, YouTube? Herozin here, and it is time for another story time with Herozin. And let us begin where we left off last time. A loud noise was heard by Fam and I. We went to the back of the base that I just constructed the dino pen, and there was a hole. I want to say it was about 4 wide on the bottom and probably 1.5 walls missing on top. So it wasn't a complete hole to allow something the size of an RGN, but definitely wide enough for a player to easily get in and out. And so we saw the solo troll, and he had just walked away from the hole he put in the base. I ran outside and was picked up and immediately dropped, but I got the name of my attacker, and it was Troll Raiders. And so while I was dead, Solo Troll and Fam 1 decided to go head to head. Fam jumped on the Ankylo and killed the Solo Troll. And now he is dead. His lifeless body is inside the base. I respawn, run outside, and get my gear, only to find the Troll Raider bird had gone away, no longer there. And so now my immediate plan was to patch the hole. So I immediately grabbed as much rock, wood, and thatch as I could and patched the hole and fixed that as quickly as I could, and then went back into the base. And so Fam was going through his newly acquired loot of killing the solo troll, and of course he had blood bags, some shotguns, primitive shotguns, ammo, and don't remember what else he had, but he was carrying some stuff, but no armor, of course. He liked to be naked. And so now we have his implant. And so Fam throws all that stuff into a large storage box we had in the base in the main area, because the back area was pretty much void of anything other than our Stego and Ankylo at the time, which weren't that high of a level. I want to say the Ankylo was around level 20 and the Stego was probably 15 at the time. And so at this point, the next 3 weeks, I assume tactics were changed because of this failed attack when we were online. Became them constantly, which I assume was them. It was either the solo troll or troll raiders. We're not too sure who was doing what at the time, but for the next 3 weeks, just became a constant offline raiding. And so we ended up we didn't see them at all for the next 3 weeks, which was really strange. The solo troll never actually came back from that point. He kind of just disappeared off the face of ARK. I don't even know what happened to him. Now, we did see troll raiders off and on, but we didn't see the bird. We did see a guy on a saber constantly going from east to west and back and forth. So we saw him quite regularly, but we never saw the bird, and we never saw the solo troll again. But I want to say 2 days after them blowing into the base, we got raided again. And this time they were fairly effective. They blew the 2 dino gates I had that led into the back area from the front of the base, the east side of the base. And then they killed both of our Stego and our Ankylo. But this time they also blew from from where the 2 dino gates were to the south of the base into the main area. So they blew through the dino gate area wall, and then they blew through the second wall I had set up that tiered the inside of the main area. And then from there they just destroyed all our stuff in there. And the only thing in there was beds, large storage boxes, and a smithy, mortar, and pestles, and pretty much just regular stuff. I want to say we were around level 30-ish at this point. And so from there, we just constantly kept rebuilding. Now, Fam kind of started to stop playing at this point. He did log on, but not as active as I was. So I was constantly fixing the base, constantly rebuilding storage boxes and the smithy, and remaking narcotics, gathering by hand, and it kind of sucked. And so it was pretty consistent of logging in, finding myself dead, finding Fam dead, and then getting back to the base from respawning at a hut we made on the south side of the river from the volcano, which was pretty much untouched. Our 3 bases at the time were the mountain base, the base by Central Cave, and the base on the river. And the river base was getting hit a lot. The Central Cave base was, the door was getting blown, and the mountain base was pretty much untouched at this point. There was still a lot of junk on that mountain base, which is the south mountain, the south little mountain from the volcano. And so all the junk on that mountain with the base, I assume they probably just thought it was abandoned. Again, it was just a 4 high base. I want to say it was 4x4 foundations and then 4 high. And so I kind of spent the next 3 weeks just constantly having all my stuff broken. The stego we would retame, or I would tame, constantly being killed, and then just constantly repairing that base. Now the base was big enough that I don't think they could fully wipe it out, because at the time stone was still a pain to get. Obsidian was a major pain to get, since the volcano was blocked off by one of the alphas at the time. And the only place to really get obsidian was the mountain east of the volcano, which is kind of in the north area. And that was also owned by one of the real alpha, I should say, at the time. And the only place to get oil was in the deep sea, and again, there was no scuba at the time, so that was kind of a pain if you, like I was, or around level 30, and you were constantly getting wrecked as far as your base just tried to exist. And so during this time, I actually got to meet some people. So when my base would get destroyed and then I would start over, my first thing I would do would be to go get metal to try to repair the smithy with my crappy stone stuff, which, if anyone knows, was a pain. Now, just north from my base, up a little bit from the volcano, there's about 4 nodes. Now, I would go up there and I'd actually run into, I want to say, the beta alpha at the time. Now, these guys were kind of cool with me. They were a bit annoying because I tried to put a respawn up there, so I just wanted to put down 4 foundations and then just a single high bed. And so I put that up there after the base had been destroyed about, I want to say, the 4th time that week. Well, not destroyed, but raided and everything broke. And so I wanted to put another respawn up there closer, because we only had the one respawn south of the base. Across the river. So I wanted the one south of the base, and then I wanted one north of the base, just in case that it got attacked again. I would have something closer, or if the other one got attacked, I would have a backup, so I didn't have to respawn on the shore and then make my way back inland. And so as I put that up one day, Fam was on at this point. I had gone back to the base, and then I sent Fam up there with a bed and a large storage box to put some gear in, and evidently they started to pike the door and tried to attack Fam. And so I ended up going up there thinking it was troll raiders, but it ended up being the beta alpha at the time that was actually based in the volcano that we learned then, and they were threatening to blow up that base up on the volcano. It wasn't, well, on the side of the volcano, really, because we were blocking metal nodes. Now, again, where I put the base, there was only 4 metal nodes, and I was actively using these nodes, and I knew that putting foundations down would block spawn, so I purposely put the base away from the only 4 nodes up there so as to not block these spawns, because I was actively using these. And so we told them, no, it's not blocking spawns, yada yada. And they were like, oh, okay, fine, whatever. And so they left. I did run out there and try to attack them while they were trying to pike down the single door of my 2x2 foundation, 1 high base, 1 wall high, with fam inside of it, with just a torch on him and a bed that he had just put down in a box, or a small storage box. And as I tried to attack both of them, they ended up jumping on one of the argents they had and flying away. The guy ended up picking up his friend, and they just took off. And then they came back with more argents, and then that's where we had our conversation, yada yada, about whether or not the base was blocking metal spawns. And so they ended up just pretty much saying, fine, whatever, and took off again after coming back and after we discussed that it wasn't blocking. And so we ended up, fam and I, going back to the base, and then I decided to go put some gear back up there. And then as I went back up there, I came to find that the door was broken open, and everything inside was pretty much untouched. So the bed was still there, and the large storage boxes, or not large, but small storage box was still there. And I was a little confused, like, okay, it must have been the guys based on the volcano, and they just were like trying to see what we had inside. So I assume they were trying to slow. I don't know what happened, or if it was actually them. But that base ended up getting its door kind of raided, I guess, or destroyed in the base. I don't know. There was nothing in there to take, and they didn't destroy it, so I was a little confused at that point. So what I did was I repaired the door, put another foundation in front of the door, and then added a double door to that. And so from there, the base got hit again. The stego that I had tamed got killed, and they were fairly effective at blowing into the base and destroying everything. Now, I was watching or paying attention to the points they were hitting. So before they had hit the double door dino system, so I added another dino door to that, closer to the one at the front. So now it's 3 dino doors inside of there. So as they would attack the base and blow in, I'd find its weak points and add more layers. Now again, it wasn't easy to build explosive at this point, so they were technically wasting resources blowing into pretty much a new base and then just breaking everything inside and then leaving. Now again, all these raids were all offline raids, so I'm assuming that they were watching our online activity, although at this point I didn't know to check Steam or to check websites to follow players, which I'm sure may or may not have probably been active. You could definitely have checked Steam then, but to see who was online. But I'm pretty sure they were monitoring, or the solo troll or troll raiders were monitoring our online activity. And so one night, we had just been raided, and fam had logged on at just the right time and had saw one of the solo trolls' saber attacking some spikes I had put around the base. So I had put spikes all around the border of the base to try to make it harder to get into the base. As I said, as they would blow in, I would try to reinforce weak points and such. And so spikes is one of the defenses, and they were just wooden spikes, so it wasn't anything truly effective at stopping someone from getting in, but it was just another thing for them to have to destroy or blow up to get in. Now fam logs in, he spawns in at the mountain base, or the volcano base now, and runs down, and as he's running down, he sees the troll raider's saber attacking one of our spikes right next to a big hole in the base, and next to spikes that are gone. So he then runs up to them, and then I assume they see him, because according to him, as soon as he leaves the tree line, they immediately book it and run away. So we assume that they are the ones that have been hitting us. It's now been, I want to say, a week and a half of constantly logging in, finding ourselves dead, and then getting back to base and finding our dinos dead and all this stuff. Literally everything inside that were broken. Even to the point that fam, in the back of the dino holding area, since the dinos are pretty much non-existent at this point, and fam wanted to work on an easier way of getting kibble. And so what I ended up doing is that he wanted to set up a farm. So we had the main area, and then this big old empty space pretty much now in the back of the base that is fully enclosed. And so I ended up blowing up some foundations be directly behind the main area. And it was probably, I want to say, 3 wide and 4 long of empty foundations. And fam ended up setting up a crop. Now they would destroy the crop plots. That's how I want to say ferocious at destroying all of our stuff, that they were constantly destroying our crop plots and compost bins. That we were getting large dino poop from the Brontos that would live outside the base pretty much. So we didn't even get large poop from our own dinos at this point, because they really did not live that long. And so I want to say probably at week 2, we ended up running into the actual Alpha tribe. Some guys on Rexes were walking by the base. We had just been hit. We had just retamed another stego, so this is our 3rd stego. And fam was feeling a little bit angry at this time. And so we assumed, or he assumed, I should say, that these guys were troll raiders walking around their Rex, coming back to attack us again or whatever. And so he picked a fight with them, and then he immediately ran to the base. And so the way the double door system was, now I added a triple door. So now we had a door on the outside, which was just one foundation, which was 3 doors on the outside, and then a ceiling. So it was one foundation, and then one door high, and then one ceiling on it, and then another door, and then another door on the inside. That way, because they were constantly blowing off all our doors as well as blowing holes. So I think they were trying to make the base unusable. And so I had repaired everything. Fam attacked these 2 guys on Rexes, and they ran into this first the first line of our now triple door defense. And so from the inside, at this point in the game, you could actually attack dinos through walls, but dinos couldn't hurt you back necessarily. They could at random times, but it wasn't constantly you hit them and they hit you. It was more you could actually hit them through the walls. So fam with his crappy little wooden spear was attacking these 2 high-level Rexes from inside the base, and he wasn't, I don't want to say really doing damage, because at this point in the game, Rexes, or well, any dino was pretty much God, because this was before the great nerf, the great dino nerf that came by. And so it was not uncommon to have a Rex around 30k HP and 1,500 melee damage. Now again, at this time, which we didn't know just quite yet, but any dino, I want to say any dino above 80 with 1,000 attack, you were pretty much God on the map. There was no alpha dinos, and I'm talking about like a raptor with around 10,000 HP and 1,000 attack could literally kill Brontos, Rexes, Stegos, Mammoths, just anything you could think of at the time that was actually on the map at the time. It was just fodder to this raptor. So that's what the stats are like then. And so I'm sure these Rexes were probably around 40k HP and probably 1000, 1500, maybe even 2000 melee damage depending on how they statted exactly. So 40k HP and 2000 melee damage. And so he ended up attacking. They ended up roaring. It was pretty cool because I didn't know that you could make Rexes roar. So it was kind of an event at the time. I was like, oh, this must be these idiots that are coming back to actually online raid us this time. And so I was getting stuff to prepare, and fam was kind of just angrily attacking, like, why do you keep raiding us, yada, yada, yada. And then these guys are like, what are you talking about? We haven't even hit you. And we're like, aren't you guys troll raiders? And they were like, no, we're the alpha of this server. I don't know what to call these guys at this point, but we'll just call them the true alpha at this time. And so we had the true alpha, which we had never run into at this point, since they made most of their bases on the east side of the map, and we had not even been to the east side at this point. And so we've met the beta, which is based on the volcano and the mountain towards the east. So they pretty much were the only people that were being allowed to build on the mountain on the east, which is where all the metal and obsidian was at this point, since every other place on the map was pretty much littered with old foundations. And then they were based on that mountain and the volcano, and then the real alpha was based on the east side. Actually, you know what? We're gonna call these guys the shoe stealers. Mostly because later on this became a habit of theirs, where it was either drop your shoes or die. Now, we were never given this option, or at least I was never given this option. They kind of didn't mess with us a lot. Actually, no, rarely, other than, I want to say, their beta attacking our crappy volcano respawn and our central area because we built too close. I assumed that was them blowing up central. I guess it could have been troll raiders as well, but I don't know. And now we have troll raiders that's now in the west, the beta alpha on the volcano, and the real alpha, the shoe stealers, on the east, or the shoe thieves. And so that was pretty much the power structure of the map. Now, the true alpha are the shoe stealers, and the beta alpha, I don't really know why they let troll raiders exist, but they were kind of in unison at the time, really. And so they ended up explaining that they haven't been hitting us, yada yada, and if we want our base completely obliterated, that we better not continue to attack the Rexes as they pass by, because evidently they were farming meat on the river. And so we were like, okay, sorry, we didn't mean to attack you. We just got hit. Our stuff was broken, and our dino, or our stag, was killed. And we're just angry, and so we thought you were troll raiders that have been hitting us. And they were like, oh, troll raiders hit you? And we were like, yeah, we believe so. They've fam saw one of the guys trying to break some of our spikes later, and we've been getting hit for this past 2 weeks, which at this time it was around 2 weeks. And like, oh, yeah, I guess that's a thing. They kind of like brushed it off, because I guess they didn't really want to. I'm pretty sure they could have taken out troll raiders if they wanted. Actually, I'm positive they could have, but for some reason they allowed their existence. And so they ended up leaving. And so now, at this point, I told fam, you know what? Now you're just attacking random people we see walking around our Rexes, threatening to get the place obliterated. You need to chill out for a little bit or whatever. And so he kind of just was like, whatever, man, and logged off. Now, at this point, he kind of stopped playing. So it's just myself. And I continued rebuilding the base. The base by the river continued to get hit. And so I kind of just was like, forget this. I kind of left the base. It wasn't totally destroyed. Again, they were mostly like blowing through doors. Or at this point now, though, because I had doubled up on most of my doors that they were hitting, they were kind of just going through the single walls. And so on the inside, I was kind of putting extra layers of walls. But again, this was all stone stuff. And getting... actually, we were pretty much stuck in the Stone Age. Getting anything like metal tier or turrets at this point was almost near impossible. Just mainly because we were not able to keep stuff long enough to actually progress. We were not able to get a fabricator, mostly because of our inability to get oil, and our inability to tame a water mount to try to get oil. And getting stone wasn't really hard, but getting the keratin for cementing paste or the chitin for cementing paste was also, I want to say, nigh impossible. Mostly because we didn't have a dino that could actually kill stuff in the central cave to get it, and the only way to get it was by hand, and we could not get not a lot of it or hold on to it enough to actually make cementing paste. Because getting metal wasn't really hard. We could just go up a little bit on the volcano and form the 4 nodes up there. And so we making a smithing and getting metal tools back, which I was pretty good at this point, considering I had to keep constantly start over and then constantly get the tools and then rebuild everything, yada yada. And so it kind of just ended up where I was like, all right, I'm going to leave this base here and I'm going to go focus on getting a whole bunch of metal on the South Mountain base, which again at this point was pretty much untouched. So I assumed that nobody went up there because it was pretty much littered with foundations, but I had already broken some foundations. They're just like the thatch and wood stuff, and some metal had started respawning. But again, when I say this mountain was littered, I'm talking about from the base of the mountain all the way up was like dead bases, just completely covered in bases. And so central base was getting its door blown open and the stuff inside destroyed. The volcano respawn point wasn't really getting messed with at this point, but it did get blown into from time to time during these 3 weeks. I want to say this is probably week 2.5 at this point. And so Fam had been gone for a little bit. He hadn't been logging on anymore. Central, or my river base, or the main base, I should say, I kind of left a little bit in a destroyed state. I hadn't repaired anything inside of it. And now I was on the mountain base farming the nodes that were starting to respawn. And again, I was actually breaking some more stuff. I wasn't going after the stone stuff, but there wasn't a whole lot of stone stuff up there. It was just a lot of wood and the thatch I had already gotten rid of. So I spent a lot of my time clearing that mountain of the wooden structures up there. And so the stone stuff up there I couldn't really mess with was the free forge area that somebody had set up there, like right on the top of it, looking towards the west. And then if you go east of that, down at the base was another stone base, which was probably the biggest base, which I want to say was probably a 6x7. So it was pretty decent, but it was pretty much demolished. So it was just like a foundation, some walls, and like a ceiling that was left from whatever happened to that base. And so I ended up putting most of the stuff up there. I had like 5 forges up there going, just constantly cooking metal. I got a smithy up there, and up there I decided to do something a little different with my respawn, because I had the beds on the bottom at the river base and they were constantly getting destroyed. So because this mountain base was 4x4, and it was only a single wall at the time, or not a single wall, but a single door system up there at the time, which I guess wasn't really a good idea. But I decided to put a ceiling at the 3rd wall high, and then put a wall and a door up there, and then I put a ladder on there, opened up the door, and then placed 3 beds up there, and then closed the door and destroyed the ladder. So now the beds are overhanging in the base, so they're pretty much the spawn points at the top, and you really kind of can't access up there unless you blow in from the roof. And so I decided to put spikes along the roof, and I put spikes along the sides of the base. And I want to say one of the times after I just finished farming the base of metal, I decided to go AFK. And when I got back, I found my character dead. And I was like, okay, what just happened? And so I respawned the bed up there. I opened the door, and I find a guy in my base looting my stuff. He's going through my metal. He's going through my smithy. I'm like, who's this guy? So I'm pretty much naked. But I see he runs out of the north side of my base, and the door was on the east side of the base, and I can't really see underneath because I have the door open, which I don't know if he heard me opening it or not, but I can't really see underneath me. And so I jump down, and I find a big beautiful hole in the side of my base, well, or a hole where a wall should have been, right underneath my spawn point. So if you had blown one wall higher, you would have actually have taken out my beds. And so I want to say the hole was 2 by 3 high. And so he blew quite a bit of walls away. And so I immediately go into my smithy, and I find a crossbow. So I take out a crossbow, and then I spend the next probably I want to say 2 minutes fighting this guy. So he comes back in. I start shooting him. Now he's in full keratin gear, or chitin gear, or chitin gear. And I'm just constantly shooting him, running around the house and inside. So he kind of sucks. He pulls out a pike and starts trying to pike me, but it's just me with a bow and about, I want to say, 20 arrows versus him in full armor with a pike. And so I'm shooting him, pretty much making no ground. So I run outside, and he kind of just leaves me alone. But I notice that he has a few pterodons with him, and some of these pterodons are actually passed out on the ground. And so I end up pretty much, I had about 5 arrows left at this point, so I put the crossbow away and just end up punching some of the pterodons dead. And then I open up their inventories to find that he has loaded them up with the metal I had just been forging, and that's probably why they're passed out. And so I kill about 3 of his pterodons. He jumps on the pterodon that he had next to the base and starts trying to attack me. Now I pull out the crossbow, and then I waste my last 5 arrows. Again, doesn't really do much. And so he spends his time trying to pick me up, but he's failing miserably at this point because his pterodon is also overweight. And so I have a few points into speed. I want to say at this point I'm probably level 30, 35-ish. And so I have a few points into speed. My main stats were speed and weight. So I'm probably, I want to say, about 130 movement speed, probably 120 movement speed and some weight. So I'm like outrunning this guy pretty easily. And so he constantly ends up trying to pick me up, but then I end up misguiding one of my jumps to dodge him and end up falling down the mountain and dying myself. And so I killed 3 of his pterodons, but he did end up getting away with pretty much most of my metal. And I want to say he had like 2 pterodons left that he ended up, his pterodon and then 2 extra that he ended up flying away from the base with. And so I didn't really get this guy's name. Wasn't really paying attention to that at this point, and so he kind of just took off towards the south. And so I was like, wow, I mean, this base pretty much remained untouched while my main base was getting heavily assaulted, while this central cave base was getting blown into. And the one time that I come up here to try to use as a safe haven, it gets raided. I mean, Yeah, it's a thing. But I'm going to have to end the story here and say thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.